Hello, my name is Rachel Goff and I'm a PhD candidate in the Department of Film and Screen Media. I wanted to share with you today an element of my doctoral research which explores on-screen representation of Ireland's landscape and ecology. This particular section of my research focuses on the socio-economic and psychogeographic impact of Skeleg Michael's appearance in the most recent Star Wars film trilogy. So I'll begin by providing a little bit of background on Skeleg Michael. So Skeleg Michael is a twin-pinnacled crag 11.6 kilometres west of the Iver Peninsula in County Kerry. It's home to a diverse range of bird and plant life, as well as the oldest early Christian site in Ireland. Skeleg Michael is primarily managed as a national monument in state ownership. The entire island was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1996, and owing to its ornithological importance, Skeleg Michael is also designated as a statutory nature reserve and a special protection area. The use of Skeleg as a setting in the most recent Star Wars film trilogy has dramatically increased global interest in the site. In 2017, the Irish Tourism Industry Confederation revealed that Star Wars filming on Skeleg Michael was worth an estimated €40 million in advertising to Ireland, coinciding with more than 200,000 additional visits from North American tourists. Prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, Antashka claimed visitor numbers had risen to more than 16,700 in each of the last 2 years, following the promotion of Skeleg Michael as a location in the Star Wars series. However, Antashka have criticised state authorities for allowing the effective rebranding of the island. In a submission to the Department of Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, Antashka said any tourism potential of Skeleg Michael has to be secondary consideration compared to the preservation of the site. This situation is best understood within the context of two case studies, New Zealand and Northern Ireland, which form the backdrop to the Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones franchises respectively. I'll begin with New Zealand. In an attempt to lower soaring production costs, in 1999, director Peter Jackson began shooting The Lord of the Rings in New Zealand, a country with minimal filmmaking infrastructure but an excellent tax refund scheme for filmmakers. Upon the immense success of the film, a government initiative saw more than 4 million New Zealand dollars spent on Lord of the Rings related promotions in New Zealand, which dissolved the line between the landscape of Middle-earth and the landscape of New Zealand, in an effective rebrand of the entire nation. Jackson's trilogy soon came to reinvent tourism in New Zealand when a number of local and international tourist providers began to offer holidays that were framed on the cinematic trilogy. This marked a shift away from previous initiatives which had focused on an appreciation of nature and indigenous Maori culture. The reinvention of New Zealand as Middle-earth came to a crisis point, however, in 2010, during the filming of The Hobbit. A labour dispute between actors and Warner Brothers Studios led to a strike. Warner Brothers, as a result, threatened to pull production from New Zealand. Had Warner Brothers carried through with this threat, New Zealand would have lost licensing rights to the Lord of the Rings franchise, effectively collapsing the tourism industry, the second largest industry in New Zealand. In an effort to keep production in the country, the New Zealand government offered Warner Brothers a package of incentives. These included an additional $10 million New Zealand dollars in tax rebates, $13 million New Zealand dollar contribution to the publicity budget of both films, and a revision of what Warner Brothers perceived to be the problematic areas of the New Zealand Employment Relations Act. By the time production of The Hobbit resumed, Warner Brothers had succeeded in rewriting the laws of a sovereign nation. Following the success of Game of Thrones, Northern Ireland underwent a similar process of cultural rebranding within the tourism sector. A significant portion of the show was filmed in Northern Ireland, and this has been widely hailed as a success story for the country, particularly given the perceived economic benefit of attracting such a massive production. It is worth noting, however, that HBO's decision to film in Northern Ireland was heavily influenced by the £14.85 million of public funding which the studio received from Northern Ireland Screen. In a case which perfectly mirrors the New Zealand Film Tourism's initiative in the wake of The Lord of the Rings, visitors to Northern Ireland can now immerse themselves in the history of Westeros at multiple locations throughout the country, with pubs, bus tours, tapestries and hiking tours asking tourists to blur the line between the fictional geography of Westeros and the real geography of Northern Ireland. The economic benefits to Northern Ireland's tourism industry in the wake of Game of Thrones, while not without their detractors, are impossible to ignore. The adoption of fictional geographies and socio-economic narratives of Westeros into the very real space of Northern Ireland provides the opportunity for tourism groups to rebrand a country associated with so much violence and civil unrest as a magical and unmissable destination, but we must remain cognizant of the case of New Zealand. Film studios are eager to film in locations such as New Zealand and Ireland, both north and south, because while lacking a significant filmmaking infrastructure, these countries can provide cheap labour and tax incentives. There is also a benefit to the administrations of these countries, as the iconography and narratives of these productions become a means of including real socio-economic issues on a world stage by breaking down the psychogeographic fabric of a country and repackaging it as a fantastical space. Additionally, the studios which these administrations permit to film in these countries have no obligation to the communities their works impact after the camera stops rolling, and the licensing of the works created in these territories remains with the studios. In the case of Skellig Michael, TDs such as Jimmy Deanahan, former Minister for Arts, have argued that it is of massive economic benefit to the country and to the local region for Star Wars to have filmed there. But in reality, the Disney Corporation's use of Skellig Michael, an island in the care of the state, amounts to little more than neo-colonial exploitation. To date, the Star Wars franchise has grossed over $2 billion. Skellig Michael, which has begun to deteriorate as a result of its appearance in the films, has not received compensation by the Disney Corporation, nor has the local economy, which made such efforts to house and cater the production, seen a share of the profits. Instead, locals have been left to their own devices to attempt to generate sustained profit from a transient cultural event, whilst a very real cultural monument deteriorates as a result. I am not arguing for an insular approach to tourism or filmmaking. However, I do strongly believe that as a result of profit-obsessed custodianship by the state and the absence of meaningful eco-film legislation, which could demand more responsible interactions from filmmakers and corporations, this historically rich and ecologically vital space has been exploited for the financial gain of those who always stood to win.